Hey everyone, Presito here. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the huge news that just came out recently about the SEC suing Richard Hart, who is the founder of HEX, PulseChain and PulseX, and they're saying here that he conducted a unregistered offerings of crypto asset securities that raised more than $1 billion in crypto assets from investors, which is obviously a huge amount, and they saying that the funds were misappropriated of the investors. So this is a big deal and could have serious repercussions for holders of HEX, PulseChain and PulseX. So in this video, I'm going to be analyzing everything, having a look at the charges, talking about Richard Hart, and also having a look at some of the inaccuracies about this filing by the SEC. And later in the video, I'm going to be going over some stats about the prices and TVL and so on, and my thoughts on that too. Anyways, let's talk about the actual charges. It could be a decent amount. So if we have a look at this tweet over here, we can see that he says that if you look at page 90 of the sentencing guidelines, he's rated over 40 points, which if you look up the sentencing chart in the same PDF is recommended a life sentence. So this is obviously not good news for holders of Pulse or HEX and so on. But I don't think this scenario is very likely. As you know, most of these cases with the SEC just end in a very large settlement, in a payment to the SEC, and then they leave you alone for a bit. And as you guys know, the SEC isn't too well known in crypto for actually protecting investors. If anything, they wreck investors by all these cases they have against people. And let's just say SEC is not too popular in crypto. Talking about SEC not being popular in crypto, we can have a look at this video that Richard Hart made, and this was actually made quite a decent time ago. And it's actually really interesting because he's saying in here, and I agree with most of it, that he's done more good for crypto than the SEC has done, so-called protecting people. And he warned people about Celsius and BlockFi. He pushed people to own their own keys. He called the Bitcoin top, and this is all true. Meanwhile, SEC got paid 50 million by BlockFi as a settlement of funds, and these funds would have actually gone to paying back people that lost money on BlockFi. So it's quite hypocritical actually by the SEC. And I 100% agree with Richard Hart in this case. And he is actually quite pro for that, I must say. And he did actually make some really, really solid calls. And as you know, when it comes to these cases with the SEC, like I said, it ends normally with a payment to them. And there was a project called Sparkster actually, which also was sued by the SEC. And in this case, they had to pay 35 million into a legal fund. And then the government processes a refund request and pays out the funds to the people that lost out. And keep in mind, I don't know if this could happen with Pulse or HEX, that he will be ordered to pay the funds out. What's also really good for him is that he hasn't misplaced any of the funds that were raised. That's all still accounted for, and I'll show you this shortly. And also keep in mind, I'm pretty sure that Richard Hart is very aware of the possibility of the SEC coming after him, and that's because he called the Pulse raise a sacrifice, and that was all very clear that you were just sacrificing or just donating your money or whatever it was, and then you would just get a random free airdrop. So they weren't actually even really connected the way he put it forward. And I'm sure this is in anticipation of the SEC coming after him, especially with the amount of funds he has sitting in crypto, which is a huge amount. And obviously he's going to be eyed down by the SEC. So anyways, let's have a look at some more information. Let's talk about some of the inaccuracies in the filing of the SEC. So if we have a look at this image, basically what they're saying is that Richard Hart directed HEX developers to deposit HEX into wallets he identified as significant holders of Bitcoin without their request. And this is actually completely untrue, because in reality, anyone with Bitcoin can prove ownership by signing a message with their wallet, which allows them to mint free HEX proportional to their Bitcoin balance. And the 90% staking requirement applied to these Bitcoin free claims, and not to any alleged distribution of HEX to Ethereum holders. So this is something to keep in mind, that is a lack of accuracy by then. And it almost seems like the document that the SEC put forward is just copying crypto Twitter memes and rumors and sentiment instead of actually doing proper due diligence and chain analysis. And they even copied the meme that he sent through Tornado Cash to buy jewelry. So keep in mind also, guys, that Richard Hart was already extremely rich from being in crypto for a very, very long time. So it's not like he made all his money from these tokens and he's using all those funds to buy things. I'm pretty sure he could buy all those things that he has from money that he made previously. And I do agree with the fact that he's helped out crypto quite a lot with his calls and warning people to be safe, and also with scams and rugs. And keep in mind, I'm not 100% on Richard Hart's side. I'm just looking at all the different facts and making up my own mind, and based on my previous knowledge of how the SEC likes to act, and they haven't really been on our side. So obviously it pushes me towards being on Richard Hart's side for this case. Anyways, another fact that the SEC missed in their filing is that they are ignoring the fact that 26.5 million USD, which was according to them misappropriated, actually went to liquid loans to this wallet over here. And they're ignoring the fact that he likely shuffled over $50 million of his personal funds into HEX and Pulse Chain. And obviously people were expecting to find some crazy behind the scenes due diligence in the document, but the chain analysis and due diligence is quite lacking, to be honest. Also, if we have a look at this tweet, we can see here he says, the blockchain shows no dirt on Richard Hart. The spreadsheet is an audit of Pulse Chain addresses linked. On chain, you can see untouched $618 million, and the total amount sent outwards was a tiny 2% of total non-HEX funds. And he says the SEC are clown frauds. And if we have a look at the image, you can see all the rough accounting of it, showing that everything that is supposed to be there is basically there. Then something else really big to consider is that HEX and Pulse is technically not a security. First of all, HEX users mint their own rewards, and they make agreements with an immutable smart contract. So it's 100% run by community validators spread across the entire world. Also, they don't have a marketing budget or team. They don't have paid promotions. They haven't paid to list on any centralized exchanges or anything like that. And that means that the chain isn't operated by the founder or a single large entity. So that is also something to consider with this. So what do you think happens when Richard wins, or hopefully wins, against the SEC, and HEX and Pulse Chain are not deemed a security in front of the entire crypto space? Well, then, of course, it's inevitable what's going to happen. It's going to pull a ripple as well. And the question is, do you think he will win? And in my opinion, I think Richard is a smart guy and he's very well prepared for this. And as you can see by how he named the Pulse raise a sacrifice or a donation and just airdrop. So he's always very specifically said that all the tokens he sends out are airdrops. So this is actually bringing a lot of attention to HEX and Pulse Chain, and if he does win, it's incredibly bullish. So anyways, let's have a look at some of the stats about the pricing and what is exactly happening. So we can obviously see the price of Pulse dumped an incredible amount, 50%. You can see here it went from 0.0001 to 5. So obviously it got really wrecked, and the question is, should you buy now? And obviously I can't give you that advice, but I personally did buy because I am trusting that he's prepared for this. And obviously with such a huge blow off dump, it's possible that it's priced in and it will slowly recover. And you know how it is as well with crypto, people forget and move on really quickly from things, and that could very well be the case here. And once the news eventually does come out that he wins the case, for example, then it will likely moon like crazy. But also if he doesn't win the case, I think it's also most likely priced in, and maybe it turns out he needs to pay a fine. But keep in mind, anything can happen. If somehow he is put in jail for life, which I highly doubt, obviously then the price is going to get even more wrecked, but that would really be a black swan event. So that's just my thoughts on the price. I think the risk reward is quite decent, to be honest. Also, the TVL has gone down quite significantly, and obviously due to the events, but people are bridging out of Pulse Chain now, so people don't want their funds to be there just in case anything happens. But on the contrary, we can see there's some whales actually buying up the dip. You can see a 7 billion Pulse was bought for 462,000 DAI. So that's also something to keep in mind. Maybe there's smart money buying in at the moment. Maybe they're waiting for more clarity and seeing what's going on. But either way, let me know your thoughts in the comments, what you think about this case, if you think Richard Hart should be guilty or if you think he's innocent. Either way, it's really big news and worth making a video with my thoughts on it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video and hopefully it gave you some clarity on this whole situation. And I'm curious to see what's going to happen, but I have high hopes for Richard Hart, to be honest. Anyways, thanks for watching and I'll see you guys next time.